Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the second and final session of Autonomous Nation. We're going to invite everybody to come back in here because we have really the guests of honor, guests plural, here. But before we get started here, I really wanted to help Trevor out here. So it was his daughter's Kensley's first day of school yesterday, and you know, as all dads go, he wants to prove how cool he actually is. Apparently, Kinsley doesn't believe this and his other kids. So what I was hoping we could do is if we could just create a video here where we all yell, "Hi, Kinsley," to really get her excited, to show her support as she gets into kindergarten. So if we could just, on the count of three, I got a video here, if we could just all yell, "Hi, Kinsley," I think that'd be really great here. So here, on the count of three, 1, 2, 3. Hi, Kinsley. There you go. You are a cool dad, Trevor. Congrats.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Well, awesome. So again, you know, just to keep beating a dead horse, I guess, here, but we are here to connect the policymakers with the autonomous industry. One of North Dakota's competitive advantages is our access to our policymakers, city, county, state, and especially federal. So really since the beginning, our Senator Hoeven has been a huge advocate for the industry. We're going to hear a little bit more. We're going to hear about how he is continuing to push forward that autonomy in our nation, or in our state. But to introduce him, I want to invite up Dr. Doug Jenson, the president of Bismarck State College. There you are, Dr. Jenson. And he'll do the formal bio and tell you a little bit of the exciting work happening at Bismarck State College.
Well, thank you, everyone. What an exciting conference. How's it been? Everybody's making contact. There's a real buzz out there. But as president of Bismarck State College, North Dakota's polytechnic institution, we're excited to be here and to talk about the initiatives that are going on. But also, as we heard this morning, one of the key valleys of death we talked about were two, but I believe there's a third valley of death. And I think that valley is talent acquisition, talent development, and how are we going to ensure that we have the talent as this technologies become available to us? How do we ensure that that'll be there? As business leaders, are any of you worried about talent in the next 5 to 10 years? It's a standard phrase we hear everywhere we go. But today, what I'd really like to do is just talk to you about how important it is to have critical leaders at certain points of time in history. And in January 5th, 2011, a very significant day occurred where Senator Hoeven was sworn in as North Dakota's 22nd U.S. Senator. Senator Hoeven's priorities in the Senate include working with the implementation of national policies similar to the ones that drive North Dakota's economic success. He is committed to creating a business and an innovation climate to foster job growth as well as a robust economy. We are in a very unique position as we look at leading this new automation and innovation area to have a leader of this type of quality. He is a leader, he is an advocate, he is a steward of the state, he's a national treasure for us to have here. Please welcome and bring to the stage Senator Hoeven.
Thanks. Is this on, or do I need to flip a switch? Oh, you guys got it covered back there. I love technology. Good morning. How's everybody doing? Good. Settle in. Nice long speech now. Hope you got a comfortable chair. Once I get going, I might drone on for a while. Okay, I got to do some intros up front here. First, thanks to Greg Tavine for all you're doing to lead this amazing hit parade and for including us. I mean, we are true believers. We love what you're doing. We're excited about it. Doug, thank you for the great introduction, and thanks for all you're doing at BSC, and I know you got a big piece of this too. There are just so many great partners and so many good things happening. I'm very excited about it and want to be as helpful every way I can, and thanks so much to Microsoft too for hosting today. I do want to recognize some folks that are here with us to do some great work in the public service area for all of you and many others. Representative, and just kind of raise your hand, is it Representative Michael Howe? I saw Michael here. Representative Brandy Pyle, Brandy. Senator Tim Mathern, Tim. PSC, and that's not like, sounds like private first class, our Public Service Commissioner, Terri Haugenhofer. Terri. Representative Ron Sorveg from right here in the Fargo area. Ron Sorveg? He'll be back. I said senator, yeah. Tell him I introduced him when he gets back. Or maybe I'll like see him and do it again. Representative Jared Haggard. There he is. Okay, we got everybody but Ron. We'll recognize him maybe when he comes back. Okay, I got a special guest today. And so I'm just going to ask him to stand up so you can see him, because then I'm going to start talking about him, and I'm going to talk for a while, and then we'll bring him up, and he'll give you the interesting stuff. It's George Rumford. George, stand up. Yep. And he is the director of TRMC. Now, you all know what TRMC is, right? The Test Resource Management Center. And it's part of the Office of the Secretary of Defense. And they develop new technologies for the military. And so we're going to talk about that a little bit today, and then we'll talk about how that relates to autonomous nation, although it'll be self-evident. But we will try to tie it into, or I'm going to try to tie it in a couple of fun ways, and then let him talk more about exactly what they're doing. But it is a big, 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 big deal. And they're going to do it in Grand Forks. And it involves, as you can see from right here, it involves 7 different government agencies, some you've probably heard of, like NASA, DARPA, the Navy, the Air Force, DOD, of course, and I can't read some of the other ones, but there's 7 different defense agencies. What's that? Yeah, oh, here, I got them written down. So you all look at the logos. I'm going to read them off my deal here, so it's a little easier for me. 7 government partners: Missile Defense Agency, Department of Defense, Undersecretary for Research and Engineering, U.S. Air Force, DARPA, U.S. Navy, U.S. Army, and NASA. So you want to talk about technology, there's some agencies that deal with some pretty amazing technology. Those are the government partners. Here's the 16 corporate partners. And this is going to be done in Grand Forks at Grand Sky, which is going to increasingly become known as your partner tech park, right? Grand Farm, Grand Sky. It's amazing. I think the possibilities here really are incredible. Here are the 16 corporate partners you see here: Northrop Grumman, General Atomics, Blue Halo, Stratolaunch, Raven Defense, Honeywell, CDSI, Leidos, Johns Hopkins, I3, Georgia Tech. That's actually a school, not a partner, but that's okay. Research Institute, okay. KBR, Torch, Raytheon, Perkin, and Controlled Dynamics. Now that's a pretty amazing partnership. So you go, well, that's great. What are they going to do? What are they going to do? They are going to test hypersonic missiles, which I think George will tell you move at like at least 5 times the speed of sound, and they're different from a ballistic missile, because a ballistic missile, you shoot it and it goes the direction you shoot it. Hypersonic missiles change direction like aircraft, but they go a lot faster. So how do we handle these Oh, and I want to mention one other guy that's here too. Mike Friel. Mike, where are you? He's a team leader up there, and so he's a rock star, and you'll want to mob him after our talk here. So we're developing hypersonics. We need to develop hypersonic, okay? And right now, China's ahead of us. And of course, Russia's developing them and testing them too. So we have to lead. When it comes to our military, we have the finest military, the best men and women in uniform, best trained, highest level of professionalism, but they've always got to have better technology than our adversaries. We can't afford to let somebody get ahead of us in hypersonics. And George will be able to tell you there'll probably be a lot of other applications as well, some of which you may already know about. But we have to lead in hypersonics. To lead in hypersonics, we have to be able to test hypersonics. Dante, how do we test hypersonics right now? That's right. What we do is we line up ships. So they call the Navy and they say, hey, line up a bunch of ships. It takes them like 21 days to do it, and then they line up a bunch of ships out in the Pacific, and they watch this hypersonic missile as it goes overhead. It's expensive, it's cumbersome, it doesn't give us very good data because they're so far away, and guess what? Our adversaries know every time we conduct a test because they go, oh, geez, they're lining up their ships out there in the ocean, they must be going to do a test, let's watch. Not the best way to do it, right? Not the way to get ahead of the competition. I'm pretty sure if they put all you smart guys on that, you'd say, hey, we can do something better than that. And the other thing is you can't fly manned aircraft close to it because the hypersonic's going so fast, it's too dangerous. So it's not like you can fly right next to it, even if you could keep up, which you can't. So they got George going on this. And George is a double E and has a great background in these kind of technology and so forth. So he is actually the general contractor for all of these companies. And they're putting together what's called Sky Range. Sky Range is how we're going to test in the future. We're going to develop a range in the sky where we can test hypersonic missiles, okay? And the heart and soul of that is going to be the Skyhawks. The Skyhawks are global hawks that are being repurposed. So the Block 40, which is the newest version of Global Hawk, is at the Air Force Base, because Grand Forks Air Force Base is the leader in all things Global Hawk ISR technology. And we're continuing to advance that. That's this chart over here. So Grand Forks Air Force Base, we're all things Global Hawk. All the Global Hawks are either at our base or under our purview at other bases like Beale. But we're taking the older Global Hawks, the Block 10, the Block 20, and the Block 30, fleet of about 27 aircraft, and we're bringing them back to Grand Forks Air Force Base. The Block 40s will stay at Grand Forks Air Force Base and continue that mission. These other 27 Global Hawks now, we're bringing them back to Grand Sky Technology Park. Why? To repurpose them, to re-engineer them. Instead of looking down, they're going to look up. And we're going to put them up in the sky over the Pacific, over the Atlantic, and they're going to be out there. And now when we run hypersonic tests, you're going to have all these Global Hawks up there looking up and seeing exactly what's going on and how it's reacting, and they're going to be able to get much better data, and we're going to regain and take our lead in this very important area of hypersonics. That's why all those companies and all those government agencies are going to work at the Grand Sky Technology Park to develop something that is crucially important to the United States of America and the defense of our industry, and that's hypersonics. And it's going to be much more than just hypersonic missiles. So when we show you Grand Forks Air Force Base now and Grand Sky Technology Park, it's become a hub for all these spokes on a wheel. The mission I just described to you is the Sky Range program, okay? But that's just one of all the other things that are being developed up there as part of Grand Forks Air Force Base and the Grand Sky Technology Park. Just a little bit ago, we announced the Low Earth Orbit Satellite. What's that? There's 2 bases in the country that are going to connect with low Earth orbit satellites, and we're putting up hundreds of them. Elon Musk is putting up hundreds of them, which is why I'm going to come back in just a minute and tell you what Dr. David Cook at NDSU, Mark Watney at Farmers Union, and Elon Musk have in common, but that's coming. All right, so Elon Musk is putting up all these satellites for us. How do you control them? They're going to be controlled out of 2 places. For the Air Force, Grand Forks Air Force Base, and for the Army, Redstone Army Base in Alabama. Those are the 2 bases that will communicate with all these satellites globally that are going to communicate with satellites, with ISR, so with drones, and they won't do it through radio waves, they'll do it with lasers, okay? We're developing that. General Atomics, for example, is developing that at the Grand Sky Technology Park, communicating by laser with satellites, but that's going to be a global communication system for our military, so land, sea, air, space. And there'll be hundreds of those low Earth orbit satellites going up. That's another thing we're doing up there. And I can go on Customs and Border Protection and a number of these other things, but we got to get George up here pretty quick, and so I'm going to leave it at that. But that tells you the magnitude of what we're doing at the Grand Sky Technology Park with the University of North Dakota and Grand Forks Air Force Base and our first in the nation test site, the Northern Plains Test Site. One of the things when I went to the Senate is I wrote legislation that set up test sites. Amazingly enough, we got the first one right here in Grand Forks. We have been at this since 2005. We've been at this for 17 years, which is why we've got partnerships that they're up there like nobody else. Think now how we do the same kinds of things with Grand Farm, with precision ag. And so why then does Dr. Cook, Mark Watney, and Elon Musk have a lot in common? Well, I had the good fortune to go to Cape Canaveral, just when did we, like a year ago, 2 years ago, I don't know, I lose track of time, year and a half ago. We went to the SpaceX hangar where there were 10 Falcon 9 rockets in the hangar. It's like you go in an airplane hangar, but this was a rocket hangar. There were 10 Falcon 9 rockets in the SpaceX hangar. Every single one of those rockets had been to space, done a job, and back 10 times. That's 100 flights just with the rockets sitting in that hangar. And that meant they took off from Cape Canaveral. They went out there, they put satellites in space or whatever it is. They turned around and they flew back. And they landed right there. They have kind of a barge on the ocean. They come down rear end first, too. This isn't where they, drop in there and they dig them out of the water. This is where, it lands, like on Star Wars. Or... No kidding space travel. No fooling space travel. We can go to space, we can come back. The issue is how long can you last out there? You might need a little food, you might need a little water. I mean, if you're going to go to Mars, you might be gone 6 months. How do we sustain life out there? Because no kidding, we can do it with the rockets. We've shown that. We can get you out there, get you back. But we got to sustain you while you're out there. Well, that's where, think about, Grand Farm is all about precision agriculture, autonomous nation. I was saying automation nation. I got corrected by my very alert staff. Autonomous nation is going to produce food, water, all these things, autonomously. So if we're going to send people into space, and we're no kidding going to put them somewhere like on Mars, we got to sustain them. Well, who leads the world in research and development when it comes to food? North Dakota State University. Now, there's a few others like Kansas State University, and they think they're pretty good. But none of them are as good as North Dakota State University. It's kind of like our football team. They're just not as good. We beat them like rented mules. So, figure it out. Figure it out. You want to bring Elon Musk, Tavine always says, geez, you got to bring Elon Musk up here. I said, that's fine, I'll call him up. I'm sure he'll come right up. You want to bring Elon Musk to Fargo? Figure it out. Sustain life in space. Nobody's better set up to do it than we are. So let's do it. All right, that's what they have in common. I've already gone on way too long. Again, a guy that's the general, this guy is so entrepreneurial. He is, in terms of the defense agencies, he's the Greg Tafine of the defense agency. He is the most entrepreneurial guy I've run across. He does a great job. Director George Rumford, TRMC.
Thank you. Wow, excellent explanation of exactly what we're doing. Just right on the money, just kind of lays down exactly what we're doing. As the senator said, I'm George Rumford. I work in the Department of Defense. So we have a particular mission, but I think we'll definitely find there's actually a lot of relevancy between what some of you are doing and what we're trying to do in the Department of Defense. We may have very different applications, but when it comes down to the challenges that we're taking on, the things that we're trying to overcome, there's huge synergy between what we're working on here at Autonomous Nation and the things that we're trying to take on to the department. So which ways do you want me to go with this conversation? The senator just knocked it out of the park on what Sky Range is about and the companies that we got bringing on and that we're supporting hypersonics. If there's anything I can just double down of, this is not concept, this is now. Of those 27, we've already retrofitted 3 aircraft. We are supporting tests today, well, not today, but someday. We are supporting a NASA test. And the hypersonic shots that we do today, we go out and we support those tests. So we've already are putting this into play. What we need to do right now is expand the fleet so we have more aircraft to be more nimble, to be more agile, And that was yesterday's event out at Grand Sky, is we've now significantly expanded the fleet with the senator's help. We've gone from starting with 3, and then last year we moved over 4 aircraft that were Block 20s, and we now just moved over 20 aircraft that are Block 30s. So we have a number of aircraft that we're instrumenting, and that's what these companies are providing, is the instrumentation and the technology to make this all happen. And when we do these missions, we have to be agile and nimble. A lot of the way our instrumentation work is with a lot of artificial intelligence, a lot of autonomy, and a lot of software to be able to make this all happen. Because while this system was flying through at the upper edges of the atmosphere, you got to be able to very quickly determine where it is, do a track, and be able to formulate a link and be able to pull information off of it. It is state-of-the-art stuff that these companies are doing or bringing to bear that are, like I say, we're now flying out of Grand Sky here in North Dakota. So let me kind of give you a position of where I'm at in the Department of Defense. So I directly work for Heidi Shue, who is the Chief Technology Officer for the Department of Defense. And so I work in this organization. I sit shoulder to shoulder with organizations that you might have heard of that have more pronounceable names than TRMC, organizations like DARPA. So DARPA has the mission of innovating a new way to do warfare, and then it's our mission to figure out whether that works or not, and how to test it, and how to be able to evaluate it and see what we can gather information and accelerate, because that's really how you innovate fast, is turning around your test to be able to create your test environment, run your test, and get information, and then feed that back into the design loop. And that's, if we're really going to catch up and close gaps with near peers, that is where it all happens. Wars are won on test ranges. They are realized in combat, or hopefully deferred by demonstrating them on a test range that then causes other adversarial activities to give pause to their aggression, because they can see what we can do. So being able to test what we need to provide to our warfighters is essential to our national security. And that's kind of the role that we play. One aspect of this is Sky Range and everything that we do there. I should also highlight that in the role we run, we actually have, so we have a portfolio dedicated to hypersonics, which is where Sky Range falls under. But we also have portfolios specifically for things like trusted autonomy and artificial intelligence. And how do we understand things like, if we're going to utilize, if there's anything that we're learning from the hostile activities going on in Ukraine, is that drones change the landscape of warfare. They're very, very, very significant. And we are just scratching at the surfaces of how autonomous systems can really change how well warfare works. And then what that also rises to is countering. So every time I look at something, it is how can we use it, and then how can we also nullify somebody else using it? So that gets into other aspects of my portfolio. We also have a portfolio dedicated to cyber, and how do you do cyber resiliency and defend against cyber attacks? We have portfolios that get into knowledge management. How do we collect terabytes of information, and how do you humanly possibly try to analyze all that when it's all about speed? It's all about turning around test results faster and faster and faster, so that you can learn from it, apply new fixes, and get right back out there with new solutions. So that speed of activity is essential to what we do in the mission that we provide. So as much as I turn around and highlight, the things that we do, and when I talk to the senator and he says, like, what's your mission? And we sometimes just, boil it down to, we need to see where the enemy is, we need to be able to blind the enemy, and we need to be able to kill the enemy. And it's very straightforward into that's how we're trying to apply technology. And from that, we derive out all the other missions of, do we use cyber to do that? Do we use cyber to track the enemy? And do we use cyber to blind the enemy? And there's all different approaches, but it fundamentally comes back to those three things. Now, I know that, because I know some in this in the audience actually do have dual use activities and they're already working with the Department of Defense. And I know that some are working with like the Department of Transportation, and the military moves things around significantly. Our highway system was built in the, it started in the 50s with Eisenhower because of military need, and he saw the value of having a well-formed transportation unit. You mentioned SpaceX, by the way, in bringing those rockets back. That testing SpaceX did actually was on a DoD test range that we own out in the Marshall Islands, out in the middle of the Pacific. It's called Reagan Test Site. And we tested them out there, out in the middle of nowhere, to make sure it worked, to make sure it worked well before we brought it to Florida. And so we have high confidence that that system is going to come right back and land on a dime. It's amazing the precision that those types of capabilities work on. I actually started my career working on a program called the Delta Clipper that we tested at White Sands Missile Range, which was a vertical takeoff. This is 1993. Vertical takeoff control system, comes back and lands just like Buck Rogers. And that was some of the early technology that Elon Musk then built upon. That was an effort that we were doing, partnering with McDonnell Douglas, before McDonnell Douglas became Boeing. So you can take all that I say, and I very much hope to have conversations with you, because this is a great networking meeting. And I've already had some very engaging conversations with a lot of folks, and I request and look forward for you to engage, because to really do this for our nation, it's a whole nation approach. It's not just like, oh, we can just have a few people work on this problem. We really have to motivate our brains across our country. And when we talk about talent management and what Doug was bringing up, that's exactly the issues that we're facing and trying to take on. I mean, if it all boils down to like, hey, we're using computers and we're using software. We're getting electrons to dance the way we need them to dance fast. And we're trying to, to do all that, we need really smart humans applying it. So it all comes down to talent management. So you could look at what we're doing and hear my talk and say, hey, he's a DoD guy. That has nothing to do with what we do. We're doing, maybe ag stuff and the like. And I say if you really boil down the problem sets, we have a lot more common than we not. Now, you're supposed to start with a joke. I'll end with a joke, but to make that point, there's the old story back in the day, an old classic joke of where two traveling shoe salesmen go to Australia, to the outback. And one salesman looks around and sends a Western Union telegram that tells you how old this joke is. I should update it. Sends a text message back to his boss and says, hey, none of the Aborigines here wear shoes. This has been a wasted trip. No option, I guess it's text message like frowny face. The other salesman writes back, great news, everybody here needs shoes. Same situation, looking at the problem very differently. And so that's where I say we ought to talk more, because even if you're working on something that might be, oh, I'm doing precision farming. In my universe, one of our biggest issues is a lot of these nations, a lot of these third world countries have very inaffordably put out minefields so that they don't know where all the explosives are. And if there were ways that we can very quickly clear those minefields and understand where those mines are in a very safe and humane way, those are very important missions. So there's a lot of dual use opportunities that we can consider. So with that, thank you for the invite, thank you for the opportunity, and I look forward to continuing to collaborate.
Thank you, George, and thank you, Senator, for your time here. And so I'm going to introduce the next speaker here for just a little bit. She's going to come up on stage. I've known her for a while, and there she is. So Terri Zimmerman is the CEO of both Botlink and Packet Digital, and she's been an incredible partner at the Northern Plains U.S. Test Site for many years. Thank you, Terri.
Awesome. Thanks, Trevor. It's great to be here, and thanks to Greg and his team at Emerging Prairie for putting on this amazing event. Also, very impressive, all the accomplishments, Senator Hoeven, the knowledge, caring that you're bringing to us, your leadership in Washington and North Dakota, amazing growth in North Dakota, impact you've had on our company. Thank you so much for taking the time to really understand and care. Also meaningful for me is being here on this campus. I was the CFO for Great Plains Software and raised the money to break ground here on this campus to build the first building. So I'm really wowed and inspired and amazed by everything that's been achieved here. And I'm also very inspired over yesterday and today and hearing all of your voices and what's been accomplished in this industry that we're in. I've been in this industry now since about 2014, and a lot has been accomplished, and just hearing from people over the last couple days of what's been achieved is really amazing. So at Packet Digital and Botlink, we build batteries and communication equipment for this industry. And so how many people had an opportunity to stop at our place yesterday or have been there? So a few of you have been there. So we cut our teeth on DoD. So we started working with DoD customers, and since then we used our success with that and launched into commercial sales. We've continued strong with DoD work, and we'll be putting some of our power products into space soon. So very excited about that. So in 2014, we began to focus on autonomy and electrification. That has really fueled the growth for our company. And as you can see, it's going to be a very, very big market in the future. And there's tremendous amount of funding that's going towards electrification and autonomy in the world, not only on the military side, but on the commercial side. So we're very excited to be in this space. We started out thinking about what are some of the challenges around this industry. And we came up with a focus for limitless flight. You're probably wondering, what does that really mean? But it probably is exactly what you're thinking. We need to be able to fly as far as we need for our mission. We need to stay in the air as long as we need for our mission. And we need to do it legally, and we need to do it safely. So at our company, we came up with 3 pillars, and that's beyond visual line of sight, power, and policy. So those are the 3 things that we focus on. I'm going to talk a little bit about those things today. So the first area is beyond visual line of sight. So we started talking with our customers who wanted to fly beyond visual line of sight, a lot of innovators in the space, military customers as well, and they really needed to have some sort of command and control device so they could fly anywhere in the world and track their drones. So in 2015, we created company Botlink and started building an onboard mobile device called the XRD, and this is now award-winning, and in its 2nd generation, it's an onboard mobile device that uses LTE, can track your drone anywhere in the world. It connects to your autopilot, your camera, and peripherals, and it has end-to-end encryption and built-in authentication, so it's a very secure device. Our first customer was NASA, and we began doing testing with them, and they continue to be one of our largest customers as well. If you think about the industry, maybe any given day there's like 10,000 airplanes above the United States. And someday soon there's going to be that many, or maybe even 10 times that many drones above our cities. So we need to have an infrastructure that we can rely on for that kind of congestion that's going to be in our airspace. So one of the things that is available today that can handle that kind of traffic is LTE. So we embarked with our customers in building this LTE device, and now we sell this product in 4 continents to many branches of the military, many innovators around the world. So the other pillar is power. And many people who know Packet Digital, they know that that's kind of our core capability. We've been around for a while, focusing on power. We build smart batteries, chargers, power distribution boards, really started working with our customers trying to understand their needs, what are their mission needs, how do we improve performance them. So some of our customers seeing about 30–40% improvements, some of customers even more in the area of performance. A few of our use cases, when we first started working in this area, we started working with the US Marine Corps. and they had a drone that was flying for about 90 minutes, and they wanted extended endurance. So we built some smart batteries, our first smart battery, in 2014, and we built maximum power point tracking, embedded solar in the wings. It was the only maximum power point tracking solution built for unmanned aircraft, tracks at 1,000 times per second, and we built the power distribution boards to go with it. And we successfully have flown that at Aberdeen Proving Grounds in Cape Canaveral and demonstrations for our customers. And we are flying for over 15 hours, landing with a 3-hour charge on the battery. And then after that, we secured a contract with the Office of the Secretary of Defense through OECIF, and they asked us if we could get through the night. We're allowed to say we have achieved multi-day flight for them. So those are some exciting programs that really launched us into this space. So one of the other areas is cycle life. Not only are we getting improved performance, but we get more cycle lives on our battery. And one of our customers has been cycling our batteries now for 6 months, and they're up to 1,400 cycles. And when they hit 1,000, they told us that was 10x better than anything they'd ever seen in the industry. So not only are they getting improved performance, but they're also getting a better bang for their buck. We provide smart batteries. What does that mean? We basically help our customers. Many of our customers are using drones in complex operations, so they want to be very safe. They want to gather information. They want to know what's going on with their batteries. So we give them real-time information during their flights so they can make decisions. We also track their entire fleet of batteries. We develop software. So if you think of fleet of vehicles, think of your 10 drones, you probably have 10 times that many batteries. We're basically tracking your whole fleet of batteries, the history, the life of that battery, what are the best batteries in your fleet, when's it time to retire. If you're lifting a 100-pound payload, you want to make sure you know what's going on with those batteries. We've also implemented our special algorithms for special storage features. So the third pillar is policy, and this is something that we partnered with the Northern Plains test site. This photo here, Botlink received the first sustained waiver for operations over people, along with CNN, and we live streamed this event to Microsoft News, as well as the CNN affiliates. So what I'll say about policy is, as a technology company in this market, you can't just focus on your own product. I mean, policy is a team sport. And it's about this whole industry working together to identify what the gating factors are. We're very happy to be supporting the Northern Plains test site with what they're doing with Vantis and assisting Thales as well. Anything we could do at our company to support the Beyond program, we definitely want to help with Beyond Visual Line of Sight and policy. So limitless flight has really fueled substantial growth for our company. We've doubled our revenues this year and last year. We're increasing the number of team members. We just bought a new manufacturing facility and expanding that. So very excited about the growth we're seeing in our company. We have a motto inside the company, delivering on excellence. It's really about how we meet with customers, how we work together as team members, and that has really paid off with us. So who are some of those customers? Lockheed Martin and Anduril are a couple of our big commercial customers. We also supply solutions to Army, Navy, OSD. We have this really kind of cool product that we're working on right now, or a drone that we're working with for the Navy. We call it the James Bond drone in our office because it flies for 1 hour, or one hour, and then submarines for 6 months. So it's like a super cool drone to be working on. And also now we won a contract last year with the Air Force Research Lab to take our products, our power solutions into space. So we're excited to be working with the Air Force Research Lab, the Air Force. They've introduced us to their suppliers, so Northrop Grumman, General Atomics, and Maxar are helping to set the requirements for the products that we're gonna be putting in space. So I'm very excited about and passionate about limitless flight, and with perseverance and partnership, and with all of you in this industry, I believe we can achieve this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Terri. If you do get a chance to visit their facility, it's a great new location. So first off, Senator Sorvag is in the House, so we want to make sure we shout him out, Senator Hoeven. And also, from a selfish standpoint with Grand Farm, we want to recognize Senator Sorvag and Representative Howe for leading the charge to get us a $10 million matching grant opportunity that's really going to help Grand Farm expand, and we're super excited about the facility, so stay tuned for more information. However, at Grand Farm, we always believe it's important to put the growers at the center of every conversation. So that's why we're going to close out our conversation this morning with our grower kind of panel that's going to be led by Mark Watney. And another fun fact about how Mark Watney is attached to kind of space and Elon is if we're big fans of the movie The Martian, that inspired us to launch our space agriculture conference. And Matt Damon's character in that movie, his name is Mark Watney. So coincidence? I think not, but excited to welcome up Mark Watney on the stage.
Well, whenever a senator opens up a story and uses your name, you have a little bit of suspicion that it might be good, might be bad, and I don't know if he's walked out yet, so I could talk about it, but it might be easier sometimes for him just to send me to Mars. But with that said, but I do need a little help here. And I wasn't going to open with this, but being as you talked about The Martian, and I don't know how many have seen it, when you go to that movie, and your name is Mark Watney, and it says, Mark Watney is dead, you do have a brief moment of thought processes of what does that mean. Now, the last thing I need help with, convince my wife that I look just like Matt Damon. She is not impressed. She doesn't think it's funny. And as much as I refer to it, she just doesn't think it's worth talking about anymore. I played that card. Well, I'm fortunate to be with some people up front here that are extremely good at farming and are going to talk a lot about the role that autonomous nation and what it may mean to agriculture. And of course, we're here not as the sole purpose of autonomous nation, but as one of the groups that's going to find a lot of successful things that could come forward. And I'd be very remiss if I didn't take and say that, remember when you eat today. I'm a farmer, and I'm also the president of a farm organization. So when you're eating bread today, because there will be bread, there will be some oil that made the meal, there will be maybe corn chips, there will be other products. There's a likelihood that one of these farmers produced something that brought that to you. And you may laugh, well, we all know that. I will promise you, people don't know that anymore. And it's becoming essential that we tell that story. So with that said, we got to get into the most important part where we get to hear from the farmers. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to let them introduce themselves. And I'm just tickled because I did a podcast with Sarah earlier, and we hit it off really well today. And I met Vanessa last night, and Ryan, I have not, no, Adam. They changed it on me, Adam, sorry. We weren't sure if Ryan was going to be or Adam, so Adam. And let them introduce themselves, tell a little bit about their farm, and then I want them to answer this question because I think it's the most important one to start with. And the question is do farmers want a fully or more automation on their farm? So let's begin. Vanessa, you want to go first?
Not really. I'm Vanessa Coomer. I farm about 30 miles south of here at Colfax, North Dakota, with my husband and son. It's kind of turned into where our son is running the farm, and we're just hired help. But the going from having, thinking that we were really, really getting modern by having the cabs that had the really quiet and you could listen to the radio and all of that, from not having that to having the autonomy that we do have now, which, at least the steering and everything has been quite the movement for us. Gene had that chart where it like flatlined for many, 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 many years and then spiked. And I think we're going to just continue to see that. On our farm, I think the more autonomy that we could do, the better. It's very hard to find people who can run the equipment and who can do the hours that are necessary during the time and periods that we're, excuse me, especially during harvest and springs work. So yeah, more autonomy, the better.
Sarah?
Well, hi, I am Sarah Levis. I'm from Hillsborough, North Dakota. And on our farm up there, we raise wheat, corn, soybeans, sunflowers for the first time this year, and malting barley. So to Mark's point earlier about eating bread, if you have a nice glass of beer today, it might have come from my farm. As far as autonomy and where it fits into the farming operation, one of the greatest challenges that I think farmers are facing right now is actually labor issues. And I think Vanessa brought up a couple of really important points. It's not only actually having access to getting the labor, it's getting the labor that knows how to do what we need them to do. It's not just plows and cows anymore. There's a lot of stuff that's going on, and you need to have the right talent. And so if there are some ways that we can try to mitigate some of that with autonomy, I think that's going to be great. Already we've been starting to see some things like driverless grain carts starting to come in, and I think that's going to be a really important component of those sorts of things going forward.
Go ahead, Adam.
Yeah, so Adam Spellhaug from Kinder, North Dakota, so not quite as far, but 20 miles south and west of here, right on the edge of the valley. Farm corn and soybeans. I do have a full-time job otherwise, because when I graduated in the late 90s, farming wasn't that great. My dad's like, you might want to get a job. And so there's a lot of farmers that have off-farm jobs and a lot of that. So I work for a soybean genetics company, so still fully ingrained in agriculture, but still playing farmer on the side. And yeah, autonomy, I mean, I have a small farm, but I try to implement as much as I can and much as I can afford. Into that operation too. So, auto steer, I think most farms have been adopted to that. And, that's the very simplest part of autonomy, but it's probably one of the biggest advances, I think. Allows you to do variable rate. You can do site-specific agriculture that much better with the GPS. And the other parts of autonomy, it goes not even driving things, but our grain bins. I have autonomous bin fan controls that turn the fans on when it's dry air, so I'm not pumping water into grain, so I can dry the grain down. Just those little things help. I mean, you drive by the country, you see these grain bins out there, there's $100,000 to $300,000 worth of grain in that bin, depending on our pricing. And we kind of take it for granted. It's just, there's some farms have 5 bins sitting out there, there's $1 million worth of grain, and we're not even worried about it, I mean, if you guys had $1 million in a big pile sitting out in your backyard, you'd probably be looking at it a lot. And we just let it sit there. Now we're putting sensors in it and testing it, and it's not molding on us or getting hot. I mean, just those little things I think are huge.
Oh, very important, and there's nothing more frustrating when you crawl up in a bin, and it may not be too far gone, but you find that heat up at the top, and you feel a few bugs that you got to go deal with, and we all are familiar with it. As perfect as we are, we tend to forget to take care of some of that stuff. So with that said, I serve on the Grand Farm Board also, and in part of my role, I believe, is to ensure that we try to get the research so the farmer has the ability to determine, does this fit my operation? And in the uniqueness of farms, it's not quite the obvious where every farm can just accept this one bit of technology and it fits. So with that said, talk to us about what you think the biggest challenge is to fully automating a farm. And we can reverse the order and start with Adam this time.
Yeah, I think part of it is a lot of it has been grower feedback. Getting grower feedback. I think that's one reason maybe Grand Farm started this panel here too. I've been working. When it was my previous role, I did a lot of ag research and started working with when this was drone focused. When that first started, 5, 6, 7. I forget how many years ago that started, and then the Cultivate conference, things like that, and. A lot of companies develop things, and if they don't have grower insight, they're going to spend all this money, all this time to develop something, bring it out to the farmer, and that farmer is going to tell you very bluntly and very honestly, no, I don't want that. So I think getting grower feedback, working it together, farmers love trying things, and will come up with things on their own very easily. So I think we're more than happy to work with companies to develop things and work together to get that end game. There's also a lot of things that we don't know we want either. So I think part of that insight and that development is good for us too, to bring it to us, because we're not all thinking about those things. It's kind of like the guys selling shoes. We didn't know we want some of these things.
Sarah.
Okay, I see two things with this. First of all, the individuality of farms themselves. And second of all, what pieces should we go autonomous, or what pieces should become autonomous first? So let's back up and talk about farm culture. So I also work off the farm. And I have a long history working in agronomy and working with farmers, helping give them recommendations, both from a precision agriculture standpoint and just overall agronomic recommendations. Every farm is unique and every farm is different. And so what that farm actually desires can be different from what's down the street. So if you're somebody from industry coming up with a standard technology, sometimes that's going to fit into a certain farming operation differently than another farming operation. And just like we hear about all different sizes of farms, all different cultures, every farm is in a different place with ag technology themselves. And so helping find that farmer and what fits their needs is really important. And that's a big challenge. The second thing, what was that second thing?
Good.
I'm sure it was. I'm sure it was great. Oh, what you're going to put in first, yeah. So what sorts of operations can we automate first? So we've talked, I brought up grain carts, that we have a way of working with grain carts, and the grain cart can get called over by the combine and unloaded. And that's great. I hear some people talking about how we want to automate planting operations or combine operations. I'm of the mind that those might be one of the last places where we see autonomy, because there's so much going on in the cab that needs to be handled in a situation by situation scenario. If we're in an era of precision agriculture where we're trying to do the right thing in the right place, you want to make those adjustments going down the field in your planter. So having something, I think we'll see autonomy in tillage practices or those sorts of things before we get to your planting in your combine. I don't think that should frustrate the industry. I think the industry should kind of step back and take a look at what little pieces of the puzzle they can kind of chip off first, and how that'll add to the overall look of it going forward.
So I take Sarah's point, and then I think as the operator in the tractor, getting the feedback from my precision ag, and it's like, okay, what changes do I need to make to this? I'm thinking that automation and a computer in there that says, well, if A and B have this, then C is what you need to do. It'd be way easier for someone like me. So I may be taking the automation too quickly. The other thing that, of course, always scares us on the farm is the cost. What is this going to cost? We have invested hundreds of thousands of dollars over my years of farming on technology and precision farming and auto steer, and we went through the years of where it wasn't very good, and where when you'd call up the help desk, they'd tell you things like, well, remove your business band radio, open your windows, you may have too many radio waves inside your tractor. And it's like, I don't think that's the issue. At the end of the day, they said, oh yeah, our satellites were down, sorry. So, we've come through the pain and the gain and all of that, and I think that what's coming next is going to be better and faster to adapt to. The other problem that we've had throughout the years is actually getting the value that we should be getting out of it. We've got the ability to do all of these layered maps. We've got the ability to flag every part in our field. And are we doing that and getting our value? And someone brought up before that the value that you gain, I don't know how you work that amount into the ROI of buying this equipment.
Thank you. You guys are answering just a lot of the questions. I'm going to move just a little bit different direction, and I don't like to generalize about farmers because it's not really true. Not all farmers are the same, but I am confident that there's a majority of farmers that are more reluctant to change than most of us would like. and maybe that's 60% and 40% not. I don't know, but there's certainly a lot of farmers. So I keep thinking about culture within farming, and when you ask a farmer the size of a piece of equipment, they don't tell you about the small tractor that they use to mow the grass, or they don't tell you about the tractor that they use to load up maybe some feed or whatever. They talk about the 625 horsepower tractor. They talk about the one with the quad track, so they talk about the 60 or 70 foot air drill because they're proud of that size. So the question becomes, and for myself, I've traveled, so I've seen some of the autonomous equipment in other parts of the world. Will the farmers adjust to, using a cultivator? Now I'm talking about a row crop cultivator that maybe only does 3-4 rows at a time and runs 24 hours and does as much work as a 60 foot. Now I didn't do the calculation to see if that makes sense, but I'm guessing that you run something 24 hours is substantially more efficient and the size can change. Do you think the farmers are ready for that change, and will they accept it? And of course, that helps with that return on investment. You're not buying quite as much equipment, as much metal necessarily, and still getting the work done. So will they adapt to that? We'll start with Sarah.
All right. I think so. Culture does play a really big role, and I think we've all been down at the coffee shop where, yeah, I got that 600 horsepower tractor. It's really, yeah. And yeah, it is a source of pride. But at the end of the day, one of the things that I've had a lot of conversations with, especially over the course of the last couple of years when inflation is coming in, is how expensive this equipment has gotten and how big it is. And it is overwhelming. And so if there are ways that we can back off on the cost of that equipment, I think, and be more efficient with what we're doing, I think farmers will adopt that. Because at the end of the day, this is a business and we have to make money with it. And so I think that's something that's important. Something else that's interesting when we think about autonomous equipment, so many of these tractors, the concept of autonomy is to not to have a tractor cab. Think about how much engineering goes into a tractor cab, into those creature comforts of what it is to sit in the cab and do all that. You take away that kind of engineering from a seat, because you don't need a seat on a tractor anymore. What is that going to do to the cost? It's kind of, it makes me a little sad. I was hoping that when I could retire, I could have a tractor with an auto steer and a one-way cell phone for when it broke, because I wasn't going to fix it. But I don't know if that'll even be a possibility.
Vanessa.
I see someone looking at his watch. Do we need to wrap this up?
She's trying to get out of the question, but say no.
Okay. As far as adapting it, I think there are going to be your early adapters, as there have always been. We have, they say that there are so many older farmers and that the majority of us are in the, late 50s to 70s. But I'm seeing a lot of very educated people like Sarah, my son, his friends. They've gone to college. They are way better at figuring things like ROI than I ever was. They are constantly looking at technology in one way or another. They're constantly on, in communication with the companies, their friends. So I think this generation coming forward is going to be continuing to adapt new technology when and if it's affordable and it actually provides value back to the farm.
Yeah, I think part of it is, we like farming because a lot of us like driving the tractors and the combines and stuff too, so don't take us out of that. But, maybe cultivating or just digging, some of those jobs we don't like. So focus on those. That'd be great. I think we'd be more than happy to have a 3-4-year-old cultivator or sprayer or a little weed it thing, pulling weeds out of our field, something like that. But like Sarah said, I think, combining, I learn a lot going up and down the field combining. I'm seeing that crop. I'm an agronomist by trade too, so I'm looking at these spots. I'm looking at the old monitor. I think intelligent learning kind of thing would do that for us as well. But there's something about that human element being involved in that it's hard to take away. So I'd say focus on some of those things.
Well, we have time for one more question, so I'm going to take just a little different path here. And the reason for the different path is that as soon as we say autonomous agriculture, people tend to say we're going to have either a robot driving our tractor or it's going to drive itself. They don't think about all the side stuff. So I know on my farm what I would love, and it's already being talked about, it's actually in principle, is something that picks the weeds out and only applies a chemical that will kill that weed. That's a huge saving. So let's talk about how this could fit in with our input costs. Share your thoughts on what autonomous agriculture could mean to input costs. And we'll start with Vanessa.
Well, I was thinking about Gene and what he had shown us with, a drone that could not only spray your fields, but I'm thinking spot spraying, because you don't want to hire, a company to come out and spray 5 acres on the edge where the water affected it. And so I think there's a lot of areas of mundane activities. We need to mow our ditches. We need to, there are so many mundane activities that I think could very well be autonomous. We're having to remove trees from a CRP field, and, it's very time consuming. If you could have an autonomous bobcat with an attachment on it, that could be done without anybody around. And I think there's all kinds of opportunities like that.
Sarah?
Yeah, and kind of to Vanessa's point, I think we need to kind of think a little bit outside of the box about where autonomy might fit into some of those oddball type jobs. I'm thinking about drone spraying for whatever reason. And I think not so long ago, people were talking about how we were going to be spraying with drones all over. And the truth of the matter is fields in North Dakota are very large, and they get larger as you go west. And you think about the battery life on a drone, it probably just isn't going to keep up with the efficiency that we have, at least for now, with spray planes or ground rigs. And that's just how that is. Does that mean that there's no fit for that? I'm not so sure. I can remember a few years ago, there was some issues with a disease in a crop, and one of the ways that it kind of took off, it was a wet summer, and so there was a lot of aerial application with spray planes. But spray planes can't always get into the edges around the trees and those sorts of places. It's a safety thing. So then in those areas, especially around shelter belts, it's a great haven for moisture and disease. That would be a great place to have a drone kind of go in and clean up those extra little spots there. Keep in mind right now, if you are actually trying to do drone spraying, I don't believe it's actually on label for any pesticide to be sprayed that way, but just thinking hypothetically, should it ever be possible?
Yeah, because no farmer's ever sprayed off-label, right? No, inside the baseball here, no. No, I think like you were saying, Mark, looking at those kind of mundane things, or I pull into the yard with the truck during harvest, and I pull up to the auger, and it auto unloads itself. I know we have some of those things already, and we're getting better with just I'd say focusing excuse me, on some of those kind of things that just helps the efficiencies of the operation. I think a lot of talk looks to the big autonomous driving and things like that, but any of those other kind of efficiency things that can be done, like I mentioned with the grain bins, just automated services, or maybe it's mixing grain and blending grain. We have different moistures, things like that. Just any of those kind of sensors. I think sensor technology is getting a lot better. So how can some of those things be implemented into agriculture as well to help us out with producing a better higher quality product as well as just volume product?
Well, thank you guys so much for coming up forward. And last night Vanessa said I could call Bowl something on her if she said something wrong. Didn't get that opportunity. You did very well, and thanks to all of you. So appreciate the time, and back to Andrew.
Great. Thank you so much, Mark and growers. Vanessa, Sarah, and Adam are all on our grower advisory board, because at Grand Farm, we believe it's really important to put growers first. Is Trevor here? Did Trevor leave? I hope Trevor didn't get bored of the conference. That's a bad sign. Well, I want to thank everybody for coming here. We do have a couple of logistic things to run through. So lunch is out there. It's a bag lunch. So we invite you to grab lunch and then go downstairs. You can go outside, enjoy the beautiful campus. And then we do invite you all to come out to our farm. So if you go on the program, you'll find the address there. It is about a 5-minute drive south of here. And then there will be a shuttle bus that will be leaving here at 1:30. We encourage you to take the shuttle bus to reduce parking congestion, and it'll be a lot easier for everybody. So starting at 1:30 right outside, there will be a shuttle bus going, and they'll be coming back and forth to the campus throughout the rest of the afternoon. So we have about 7 or 8 different autonomy demonstrations from trucks, tractors, skid steers, drones, soil probes, things like that. So it should be a great time. And then at 4 o'clock, we're hosting a happy hour, which is always a great time. So we believe that this is a really important conversation. We think that automation can improve the human condition. We think we have the right innovative startups, the right corporates that will adopt this technology, a really strong university and research base that's pumping out the workforce, innovative growers that want to adopt this technology, and a governmental policy that is apt for innovation. So we thank you all for coming, and we'll hope to see you out at the farm here in a couple hours. Thanks, everybody.